Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little note to let you know that we're gonna wait about 1 more minute just to let a few more people get into the room, and we'll start promptly. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. We're here today in this important webinar with 3 key speakers, 3 key experts in the CNI or the ship industry, and we're here to discuss what are the commercial possibilities for industrial solar for heat and steam generation. With us today, we have Diego Crespo from Solar Concentra. We have Barbel Epp from Solar Payback, and also Christian Holter from Solid. So Diego, do you want to give us a wave so that we know who you are? Right, Barbel, there we go. And Christian, give us a wave. Here we go. So before we start, and the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna have first presentations, and then we're gonna have some Q&A. You can use the Q&A box at the bottom to send us your questions. I'd like to just throw a poll at you. I always like to, get a little bit of the feel of the room. So please, Laila, if we can have the poll up so that people can see it. And the question is really a simple one. We just want to gauge a little bit who's in the room. Let's see if we can just share this. And just to let you know, we're recording this, so we will send it to you afterwards, and also the presentations. So the question is simple. What do you consider to be the biggest barrier for concentrated solar thermal for industrial processes? Is it low awareness? Is it a problem with high capex? It is insufficient financing opportunities, or it's an off-taker risk? So if you could please just vote for me. I think all of you should be able to vote. So I cannot see it on my screen. Laila's got the controls today, so I can't see how you're voting, but let me just give you a little bit more time. And the question is simple. What do you consider to be the biggest barrier for concentrated solar thermal for industrial processes? Is it low awareness? Is it high capex or capex? Is it insufficient financial opportunities or off-taker risks? How are we doing, Laila? We're getting quite a lot of participation. Excellent. I'm going to read back a little bit. Just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can we close that, and can you show it to us, please? Right. Okay. So here's the thing, what we think is 52% of people think high capex is the main problem. Low awareness is quite high as well as the second. And then we have off-taker risks and insufficient financial opportunities are the last. So we'll close this so you guys now know who you have in the room. And just before I give the floor to Diego, I just like to make an announcement that today we have our first person here with us live. And I'd like to introduce you really quickly. So this is not the most professional thing to do, but I think this is family. So this is
Hello, everybody. Nice to join here the webinar on CSP. I've been in this business for several years, and launching the project of Ashalim when I was working for Alstom General Electric. So I'm quite familiar with the constraints of this project and the beauty of CSP. So I'm a big fan of that.
Excellent. So this is the first for us, but hopefully not the last. We're always welcome to join us here if you like. So without further ado, Diego, please go ahead, share your screen and unmute your microphone.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Is it okay with the screen, Belen? Well, I hope so.
We can see it perfectly. You can go ahead.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. Thanks, Ada, for letting us the opportunity to share the activities that we are conducting here in Spain in order to foster solar heat for industrial processes. The structure of the presentation that I'm going to follow is basically I'll introduce to you who we are. You may not know us. I'll very briefly share with you which is a ship market situation in Spain. Then move towards which have been the activities that we have conducted in order to boost shipping in Spain in the past and now in the present. And I'll share with you finally which are the next steps that we have in mind to make this market happen in Spain. So let's start with who we are. We are a technological platform, which is a forum built up by the most representative agents in the STE industry. And we are an active tool that fosters R&D activities. Upstream, we work with two groups which are very much connected to the government, and downstream we have two different working groups that I will describe later on. In terms of history, we started in 2010. At that time, the technical secretariat was CETAER, you may know them. The financing entity has always been the government of Spain. Nowadays is the Ministry of Economics, Industry and Competitiveness, and nowadays the technical secretariat, which was taken over by mid-2016, is being led by Prodermo Solar. The goals here at Solar Concentra is basically the capitalization of the know-how, targeting the market implementation of CSP activities and strengthening the industrial network. So 112 entities build up Solar Concentra. We have very different point of views: public administration, associations, R&D centers, companies, big ones, small ones, and universities. Among them, we have, of course, ship developers. In terms of the two different working groups that we have, the first one, it's a lot more, its name is Concentrating Technologies. It's a lot more focused on power generation. I'm not going to go through the details of this one because the one that brings me here is medium temperature one, which aims to foster solar heat for industrial processes in Spain. Of course, well, the medium temperature that we name is between 100 and 400 degrees Celsius. We believe, and there are facts that say that we have here in Spain a huge potential market for ship projects, so that we are aiming firms creation, jobs growth, and hopefully decarbonizing the Spanish industry. So this leads to talk a little bit about the ship market situation in Spain. Back in 2007, the IDAE, which is the Institute of Diversification and Energy Saving, which depends directly from the Ministry of Energy, carried out a study that said that the ship potential market size here in Spain is around 37 gigas, which is huge. If we include coal generation, this could go up to 53 gigas. And another fact that is very interesting is that almost half of the industry heat needs are below 250 degrees. This is the energy mix of the industry demand in Spain back in 2007. Nowadays, it has not changed so much, so we can see that there is still a lot of room of improvement for renewables to get into this energy mix for the industry. The ship market in Spain had a really nice start back in the 80s with 3 demonstration projects. There you have the details for milk industry, food industry, and also for coaling purposes. However, these projects are not working anymore. And as of today, the ongoing projects in terms of ship are 4. At least as far as we know. One in the University of Seville for cooling purposes, another one in Barcelona in a slaughterhouse, mainly for scalding industrial process, then another one in Cordoba, again for food industry, and finally another one in Valencia, in Dadelos, for an agrochemical company. So what have we done in the past and what are we doing now? Back in 2015, we conducted a study that was basically trying to estimate which is the cost of heat generation through concentrating solar facilities. We analyzed 3 different technologies, which is vacuum tubes, parabolic troughs, and linear Fresnel. At that time, we split Spain in 5 different regions in terms of solar resource. And we made the cost estimation of the kilowatt hour thermal for 10 and 20 years, comparing it with the fossil fuel that the companies were using. Using the medium scenario in terms of fossil fuel cost evolution, the outcomes were that the internal rate of return figures were quite good for 20-year projects. However, our opinion is that this study has not led to a lot of ship new projects. So we have reconsidered the approach of conducting studies, and nowadays what we have done is to go from paper to commercial action. Basically, we are trying to, we have already found out 130 industries in Spain with the lowest paybacks as possible. And we are targeting that these paybacks are less than 5 years. So first, I'll explain to you later on which is the methodology that we have carried out for this identification of companies. We have arranged meetings with these identified potential customers, and now we have already visited 3. I will describe later on. So now we are raising the awareness in the potential end users of this technology, and we are sharing with them that this technology exists and works. So which is the methodology that we have carried out? First, of course, we need to take into account which is a solar resource. We have taken into account the global global horizontal irradiation because, well, of course, we know that CSP works with DNI, but we wanted to have a level of detail at municipality resolution. So for this reason, we have used the global horizontal irradiation, and we have set a limit. And we have analyzed only the regions with very high solar irradiation here in Spain, so that looking for always finding out places where payback periods are as lowest as possible. Then the main competition of SHIP is basically a cheap heat energy source, which in the case of Spain is the piped natural gas. If an industry has access to piped natural gas, they most likely are paying very little for a kilowatt-hour thermal. So what we have done is to exclude from our study those municipalities that have access to piped natural gas. So the white ones are the ones that we are excluding. And afterwards, what we are doing is analyzing at each municipality which are their energy needs or energy consumption. This is public available data, and within the municipalities that have a good solar irradiation and do not have access to piped natural gas, we have analyzed all the industries that are in there and all the industries that should fit SHIP in their industrial process. So we have analyzed all the industries, and those that fit with SHIP are the ones that we have selected for finally creating a list of 130 potential customers that most likely will have payback periods below 5 years. We have also analyzed, I mean, we know that the surface availability is a huge constraint for the identification of these final 130. We have also checked with Google Maps whether they have surface available or not. So the 4 sectors that we have analyzed and are food and beverage, textile, paper, and agriculture and cattle raising. And well, what we have now, it's a nice product, which is a list with name of companies with the industrial process identified and exactly where they are. So with this, with this list, we are aiming to foster SHIP implementation here in Spain. If we have a look at the breakdown in terms of industrial process of these 130 industries, we can see that in food and beverage, the 2 main industrial processes that may fit SHIP are pasteurization and scalding. For agriculture and cattle raising is scalding and sterilization. For paper is digestion drying, and for textile is dye. So for the time being, we have conducted 3 visits to different industries. And the goal of these visits were 2 at the same time. First, foster the technology in the final potential end users, and also validating the data of the methodology of this study. And all these 3 industries that we have visited, they do not have access to piped natural gas. 2 out of them were using diesel, and 1 out of them was using LNG. And they were looking forward to receive proposals in terms of studies of potential final implementation of a SHIP project there. And which has been the repercussion of the study? Well, for the time being, 6 different companies have approached us and asked for the list. We have provided a part of it, not all, as we consider that this list has a high value. So we are only providing information if afterwards they provide us with feedback in order to monitor which is the development of this technology here. And we believe that this outcome will help fostering SHIP projects in Spain. So which are the next steps that we have in mind to make this market happen here? We are already talking with public administration in order to try to establish certain help with them. We are also fostering ESCO companies to include ship among their scope of activities. We are also doing, as a daily basis, strengthening the industrial network here in Spain. And we are also willing to disseminate the ongoing ship project outcomes, because this is also a big constraint to have public information about the outcomes of these ship projects that will bring confidence to potential end users. So all in all, what we want to say here is that we are willing to attract firms for speeding up the implementation of ship projects here in Spain. That's all from my side. Thank you for your attention, and here you have my email if you may need to have more information. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Diego. And this is one of the challenges that we have remaining, and that is exactly what we're focusing on this webinar, the sort of the commercial, business development / marketing answers. How do we get to our clients? How do we convince of the value? And on that line, a lot of work has been done by Solar Concentra already in Spain, and also Barbel's got years of experience with this. So please, Barbel, go ahead and give us your presentation. Excellent, we see it perfectly.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bärbel Epp. I am the director of the German agency Sorico, focusing on solar heating and cooling, market reports, market analysis. And today I report on behalf of the project Solar Payback. And Belen asked me to have a bit of a meta level on, barriers on ship deployment worldwide. So Solar Payback is a 3-year project promoting the use of solar heat for industrial processes ship across 4 partner countries: South Africa, India, Mexico, and Brazil. And you find all further information on solar-payback.com. There are good news, actually. The ship market is growing. We have 120 ship systems in 2012, and this number fourfold in up to 500 systems in 2016. So this is worldwide still a small number, but it shows a certain momentum. On the other hand, we have an increasing number of turnkey suppliers on ship. This map you can find on solar-payback.com, and it shows all technology suppliers that are already having experience with ship or aiming at entering this market. We have grouped them into the ones which are producing collectors themselves, and which are, for example, yellow, and or blue, dark blue, if they have already references, and the ones which are technology neutral, so they offer collector variabilities according to the client. If you enter one of these little boxes, you find the number of turnkey systems the company already realized as ship, together with the square meter collector area. So we really checked the suppliers, and there's 1/3 of them who are ready to offer. That means it's a growing segment which is believing in the huge potentials of ship, and that we have on a global level very big momentums and very big potentials. I think Diego already mentioned some figures from Spain. Some more figures from Brazil say that we have 50,000 food manufacturers in Brazil. We have 4,000 beverage, 12,000 textile, 15,000 leathers. This is only the 4 sort of industries that are most suitable for ship, because it's usually the low-hanging fruits with the lower temperatures. So in general, increasing market interest, a good supply situation, and huge potentials. But what is the but now? The but is that we have industry is the most demanding clients that the solar thermal technology suppliers have ever served. And this is a really barrier at the moment. That means they are extremely industrial clients are extremely straightforward what short payback times are concerned. They usually have rather low fossil fuel prices because they are subsidized in many countries or exempted from taxes. They want turnkey solutions, which almost no interruption of their production. They are very reluctant if it comes to you manipulate my production. And they want clear bankability. That means absolute transparency in cost and yields. And these 3 requirements are hard to tackle And this comes along with the fact that solar thermal technology suppliers in the past were not so keen on or not so stressing on transparent costs and yields, because we mostly supplied residential end customers, that means house owners, and their way of looking at a clear bankability is very little. So a very challenging situation for solar thermal technology suppliers. We can describe the whole situation on the market best with this vicious circle. This means that we have a low number of plants, 500 for the whole world. If we compare this, in Brazil, we have we have identified one single plant in automotive yet. And I have told you the huge numbers which are out there as manufacturers. We have very little existing systems. So you have little to touch, to see, to listen in the news to meet somebody who has a plan. So very little visibility, again, leads to low awareness, which sort of ends at low number of plants. This is the right-hand side of the vicious circle. The left-hand side goes together with economies. And we have heard that high upfront costs are seen as the major barrier. And this, coupled with the low energy prices the industry is facing, is usually leading to long payback periods. And this is again delaying the market entry. So we are ending at low number of plants. So to tackle this vicious circle, we see three major activities. And one is to tackle the right-hand side, means communication. There needs to be much more communicated, and I really appreciate the effort of ATA to have already the second webinar focusing on this ship market, because there's too little known among potential customers as well as policymakers. But that is a big issue, so great step up in communication. The second point is that we need sort of a good, intelligent business models that tackle the fact that we will not often reach solar payback times below 2 years or whatever is requested by the industry. So we need brave entrepreneurs who are able to sell heat services instead of hardware. And this is a very wished or a clearly seen task by the industry. When we have questioned the world map companies, 80 of them agreed that ESCO is a very good business model for employment of ship, but only a third is actually offering heat supply contracts, because it's a tasking job to do the contracts and to deliver the risks and to negotiate with the banks and so on. So little have experience with that, but it's probably an important vehicle. And the third one is that we need more level playing fields with the current energy prices. This can be either done by a carbon tax or by stipulating renewable quota in certain industries. And we have, in the second part, we have interesting news from India, because they are actually discussing a renewable heat obligation for the industrial sector. And the association, the Industry Association, Solar Thermal Industry Association, already drafted this obligation, and they are in close cooperation with the government, because the government sees industries as a very high sort of emission potential saver. And I think this is the way to go, either through levelizing energy prices or stimulating renewable quotas to develop this market. So this was my short input to this general discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And, I was just had to think what you were talking. It's like, what is our solar city, PV had this great company, Solar City, that switched the business model around, or Sun Edison, if you like. And they really made it possible and got it down to the end user. And that's what we need in this industry, I feel. Christian, this is your turn now. Please just, if you could share your screen and unmute your microphone. And then right after that, we'll take questions. And, the $1 million question, which we should say now the $1 billion question of, what is the payback period of this technology? So if you could just show that in big screen, perfect. You need to unmute your phone, please, Christian. We can't hear you at the moment. Is at the bottom on the left-hand side. Perfect.
Perfect. Sorry. So good morning, everyone. Well, after two such great speeches, as we just heard from Diego and Bärbel, they took away a lot of the good stuff I wanted to say. So we are in good agreement on many parts. Now, I'm Christian Heuter. I'm representing the company of Solid, and we are commercially present in large-scale solar heating and cooling since 25 years. So we have a lot of market experience in the discussion with potential customers, with implementation of projects. And so this is what I want to share with you to give you this market insight we have on that. Very short, for those who don't know about Solid, so we are focused on solar heating and cooling only in the commercial scale. We do not do any residential, we do not do any PV, and we work out of Austria, where we have our headquarters, but we do have branch offices in Germany, California, and Singapore. And our focus are three areas: solar heat for industrial processes, what you see on the left bottom here, but we do as well work in solar cooling, right bottom, and solar district heating. And I think that's important to understand. When you develop a new market, you need to take an overall responsibility in the development of projects. So it's almost never ever existing situation that the customer gives us a call and say, I know what I need and please build us a solar process heating project. No, you need to get out, you need to talk to the people, knock the doors, develop a project jointly, find what are the best matches between what solar technology can provide, what energy management with storages can provide, and what the customer needs. Then we move the project through the engineering process. We take care of quality management, construction or construction supervision, and we have long-term involvement in operation and maintenance. So about most of our plants, we know over 10, 15, even 20 years what is happening. And coming here to the specific point, which is quite interesting for SHIP as well, we do project financing, which means we do the investment and we sell out the heat, we sell out the capacity and get paid only by the performance. And this model has been developed in the beginning more on the health industry, on district heating industry, but now we move this into manufacturing industry as well, and this will be something I'll focus at the end of the talk. And regarding geographic, so we do have plants all around the globe, so we do have experience in different markets, both in the moderate climates, Central Europe, as well as the very southern parts, including Caribbean, Latin America, Southern US, etc. Okay, the projects we do have out in the market, and it's just a small selection of industrial plants. So we started actually in the early 2000s with solar heating and solar combined solar heating cooling projects, which were the first two you see in this table. I would say one of the most significant regarding both the customer's reputation and in regards of size has been built in Arizona for Gatorade. You'll see some pictures about later on, which has been started in 2008 and has been extended twice in 2010 and 2013. And moving to the bottom, well, you have actually heard many of these sectors previously. It is beverage industry, it is food industry, but as well, we are now in car manufacturing as well. So 2 slides here. In what we do in Gatorade is actually, Gatorade is, you know, the energy drink. Now this is made, saying it simplified, out of tap water mixed with some powders, with some integrates, and then the product is going to be bottled. When the fresh water comes into the factory, it is pasteurized, so the tap water is heated up to 70, 80 degrees C, and that has been done with a natural gas boiler originally. And with the support of a good local grant program, Gatorade decided in 2008 to start with a system of roughly 900 square meter solar system. And after 2 years, they came back with a very simple order, actually the simplest all over our company's history. It was one line: please triple the capacity of the plant. So we went up to 2,600 square meters in 2010. And in 2012, we added another surface, and here it's quite interesting in regards of Diego's contribution. This last extension was combined flat plates on the one hand, but we did include two concentrating technologies, one with dishes and one with parabolic concentrating, as Pepsi was eager to learn about performance for these technologies. Technically, we're talking about low-grade heat here. We go from 25, 30 degrees C to a maximum of 70 degrees C. So this is not a justification to go for any high level or advanced collectors, because these low temperatures, you're really nicely off using simple flat plates. For sure, not the small one that you have in residential applications, but using big ones, which are state of the art for commercial industrial installations. A second plant, and again, it's a combined one today. So we started here in 2013 for a meat factory, which is based in Austria. They're cooking ham in this factory. And this is actually one of the situations Diego described. They don't have a natural gas line. They're running on oil. And oil is an expensive resource. It has been even more expensive some years ago. So in combination with some EU support, the company decided, well, we move into solar. And on the technical side, it's roughly 1,000 square meters. We put a bank guarantee in place. So that's somehow the response to Beber's statement. The company was not really sure about what would be our savings we can expect. So we did a calculation. We said, look, guys, the project will deliver roughly 450 megawatt hours a year. And we put a performance guarantee in place, which today is expired, but we could get the proof that the system is doing what we promised, and the savings which we expected could be generated by the investor. This system was later on upgraded within an R&D project with some concentrating technology. So that's one interesting part. The other one I want to highlight regarding the decision maker structure. This company is a family-owned business through several generations already. And our experience in working with industry is that typical family-owned businesses are easier to get on board with solar technology, as they are more thinking on the long term. If you talk to companies which are on the stock market, they are very focused on a quarter-to-quarter reporting and quarter-to-quarter thinking as well. And so that's a lot harder in regards of the expectations on return of investment. So what are our findings, generally spoken now? We have seen in southern countries, and I want to take as an example the Caribbean, Latin America, but as well in Southeast Asia and in southern US, we have seen returns of investment from 3 to 7 years. And if I go more in the moderate climates like Germany, honestly, we talk about 7 to 12 years if you look on the pure solar part. There is an opportunity to improve this return of investment when you add on energy efficiency measures. And this is something what we do quite frequently, because it doesn't make sense producing solar energy for inefficient processes and thus oversizing the solar project. It's much better taking a portion of the budget to improve energy efficiency, reduce heat losses, improve control strategies, and make an overall package which has a better economic performance. Well, so these are the ROIs we have seen, and I think in the combined projects they are a little bit better. However, what we see as well, if you look in comparison to the life cycle of a solar system, this is a great return, because solar systems, state of the art today, they work 20, 25, even 30 years. So €1 or $1 invested here will be paid back 10 times over lifetime in the best situations. And we have heard about the typical industries already, so food, beverage, mining, hotel, leisure, etc., etc. There's really a lot of things to do. And I have the but here as well. What are our hurdles in getting these projects done? Number one, if you look on the balance sheet of all these manufacturing companies, energy is still, in most of the companies, a real minor cost factor. It is in a range of 1 to 3%, something like that. And if you can promise that 10 or 20% savings, it seems to be a lot of money on the one hand. On the other hand, compared to the overall balance sheets, it's a small portion. The second part is when you are talking in industry, there's a lot of other opportunities to save money, even in a shorter period. So when the operator of the industry needs to decide where do I put my investment money in, you compete with a lot of other stuff within the company which offers quicker returns of investments. And even if the life cycle analysis is much better on the solar system, here the ROI is the real driver of where to put the investment money. Last but really important point as well, we have often seen that even if our investment was received as very positive and the management said, yes, this is actually an ROI we could go with, at the end of the day, when there's a competition between investment in the core business of the manufacturing into new machines for improving the output of the production, into maybe upgrading existing facilities on the direct manufacturing side, the money always goes into the core business, and energy is seen as a kind of supporting technology. And there is definitely another hurdle in getting the money into this. So besides the points of awareness, etc., even on projects where we have a good ROI, it's not easy at all to land a deal and get a project done. So we offered energy service contracts, in short ESCO, in several of these installations. And let me review a little bit our experience on that. So that means actually we come with external financing. We take care of all the project finance, including grants, including tax advantages, etc., etc. And this is definitely a good point for the industry because we are the experts in that and we know what's happening there. We have the trust into this. And so it's much better. So specialists take care of that. Now, the issue when you have money and you say, I want to invest in a manufacturing plant, typically it's not the solar company's money because the solar companies, they don't have the cash in hand. They need to reach out for a third party, which could be a bank, which could be some investment fund. And there you run into quite interesting questions. Investment funds have certain, and banks as well, have certain concerns about investing into these projects, which are mostly related to stability and reliability of the industry. So I have seen that, and we had projects that failed on that point because the financing partner said, you know, this company is sitting here today, but what happens if they need to close their facilities because the headquarters decides to move production to a different site? If certain processes within manufacturing change, and we all know processes which are heat driven today might be switched to different technologies in the future. Cleaning can move from hot water to microwave. So there are many concerns coming out of that. And actually the oldest solar process heating plant in Austria I know was a plant built in the 1980s for developing picture color prints. And at that time, you need a lot of hot water for that. So they designed a solar plant for this and built it. Now, looking back today, these 30 years, we all know what happened to printed pictures. First of all, this technology changed, got more efficient. The hot water demand was cut down to something like the half. So they shut down a portion of this plant. And looking at the last 10 or 15 years, we all have moved to digital photography and almost no one is sending pictures to a lab to produce prints. So today this business is totally dead. And this is exactly the concern which is here on the financing side. If a third party steps in, does the investment, well, you are closely connected to the development of the customer side. But we have seen sometimes that works, and it is important here to have good standing and reliable customers where both ourselves and the financing partner trust into the long-term business vision as well in the long-term development on the company. Then for sure, it's very important to have a contractual setup that protects the investor and the financing partner, the ESCO, from future changes to safeguard the investment. And this is a true legal challenge, but it's workable. And last but not least, it does not help at all if the solar heating project already is on the borderlines from the return of investment. These projects need to have a very nice contingency in the economic plans, because otherwise no one gets enough comfort on that. So I would say these are the three important things to get it done. And I'm going to show you one specific example, which actually went operational last year. Well, it's a company out of the car manufacturing industry. It's situated in Graz, which is our home base. And that's for sure an advantage to have strong industrial players at your home base, because this is a point of creating a lot of more confidence. And this company is using the solar heat for heating testing stands for car engines. And today we have in operation something like 1,500 square meters, but this plant will be extended in 2018 twice. So we will add on a chiller, and we will add on even more collectors, and the overall energy output will almost be doubled at the end of the year. And this is a true manufacturing plant where that works out. So I would say that are my backgrounds from the practical side on ESCO, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Christian. Okay, so now we've seen, can you actually stop sharing the screen if you go to the top so that we can see you guys? So here's what we're gonna do. We have a few questions, okay? And I'm gonna ask you guys in the audience a question. Actually, Laila, can we have first the poll for the audience? Because I think it will make sense. One of the questions that we had is, what are the payback periods for this kind of system? So I'm going to ask you, what do you think should be our objective as an industry? What do you think would make us commercially viable? From speaking to your clients, from speaking to your people that you already know, you must have an idea, you must have discussed something in mind. Is it more than 10 years? I'm not really that interested whether it's 12 or 15 or 20. In the end, it's quite long. Is it 6 to 9 years? Is that, I can see Christian, his answers are coming through already. Is it 5 years? Is that the magic number? Do we have to go for 5? Or is it actually 2 to 4? Are we going to, and I just asked you, as in, you guys have been working in this industry for a long time. I've taken a look at your names here. I don't know all of you personally, but I know a lot of you, and you've been doing this for a long time. So what is it that it will make us viable? I'm going to count down 5. Pick your answer. Plus 10 years, 6 to 9, 5, 2 to 4. I can see Christian's answer. Please, Laila, can you show us? Okay. I guess that you can see all that 5 years is what people are thinking. The next one is 32%. So if you can close that now. So we are quite clear. Everyone knows 5 or less than 5. That's the right answer. You may be a little bit more in some places. So this is a question to you guys. 2 questions. One, what is commercially viable, and what is the sort of like shortest that you have seen, the one that you think is possible? By all means, unmute yourselves and, speak freely, whomever wants to take this question. And go, Christian.
Okay. So the quickest return of investment we have seen was below 3 years, which was a combination of nice grants, nice temperature profile, and very good solar radiation. And that happened in the climate of Arizona. But I would say there's no general rule of what is the needed ROI, because it highly depends on the customer's setup and strategy of thinking. And I want to highlight 2 extreme examples to show my experience on that. So if you go to a pure industry, which is on the stock market, where you have managers that are actually targeting best annual or even quarterly results, then you're down at 3 years. If you talk to health industry, hospital, people might say, look, we make investments here to make a new building, which is standing here for 100 or 50 years. So if the solar system pays off in 25 years, we are fine as well. And I've seen really this wide range of people who are saying it needs to pay back within a lifetime, which you find not in the manufacturing industry, but in related health industry, touristic industry, etc. sectors. And in family-owned business, you're somewhere in the middle. So family-owned businesses, in my experience, could accept between 5 and 10 years.
So just, I actually promised Barbara that I would give her the chance to talk. She believes that we should use, instead of years of payback, we should use a different which would be the IIR. But just before you answer, Barbel, there's someone here that has a really interesting question, comment, and he says that 2 to 4 years definitely the golden rule, but you know, with a good marketing communications corporate image aspect, maybe we could push it to 5-6 years. This is John Florian. So Barbel, go your comments. IIR paybacks. What should we use?
Well, that depends, as Christian said, very much to the customer we are talking to. But I think that we need a shift in marketing communication. And this is what I learned from some of the ship turnkey manufacturers, which are out there for several years. If you succeed to get into the discussion with your clients on you are implementing an infrastructure project, rather than a payback project that Christian lined out where you compete with a better machine. Infrastructure projects usually are allowed to have much longer payback times or lifetime calculations. And then it's obviously that an IRR will be very striking. And I think IRRs are also, I mean, it's internal rate of return. So it's a very bank visible view. So if you have to discuss with your bank, you know, for them it's very important how this investment pays back. So I think that pure payback calculations sort of kill a lot of projects, whereas this infrastructure long-term view, where you also need a client to it, which is, you know, capable to do that or willing to do that, will open more doors. But I was really interesting to hear the experiences from Diego. And I would like to ask you, did you have any Spanish subsidy on your calculations, or is it pure economics you are doing the paybacks for?
Well, we do not have any subsidies. As of today, we are working a little bit on it with different regions in order to put a little bit of money in this kind of projects in order to help to foster this implementation. But no, I mean, it's purely economics, and the payback really, I mean, the base of the economics of the payback is which is the price of the energy that each industry is consuming. So if we are competing against LNG at less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour thermal, we are in a very different scenario. So we are looking for companies that are burning diesel, which is a lot more expensive than LNG. And this is where we will find low paybacks. If we do not focus on these industries first, we will not have projects. So that's why our rationale is basically look for these specific industries that are paying a lot for heat, and then we'll perhaps broaden our scope of activities to other industries. But first, target the ones that are paying a lot of money for heat. And this is the only way to get low paybacks. If not, it's impossible.
Okay, we've had 2 questions that are different but related that, you know, I'd like to throw out there and see, you know, what your answers are. One is the question of the seasonal effect, you know, on this kind of industry, and the storage side of things, you know. So, you know, if you know 24-hour hits, so what are the solutions? How reasonable, how cost effective are them? Just throwing them out because I'm not a specialist in this industry, you guys are. So storage, seasonal effect, how do we deal with that in terms of our clients?
Well, one of the companies that we visited told us that, of course, the seasonal factor is a lot more concentrated during summer. So we said, okay, so this solution may be useful for you, but some others have told us, calling them directly, and they said, well, our seasonal effect is that maybe 70% of our production is from October to May. So directly we have told them, oh, all right, this solution doesn't work. So we should, of course, have a look in very, very deeply whether they have a seasonal effect or not. And we are taking this into account for the list creation of 130 companies. This is my input.
Who wants to take it? Barbara, Christian?
Yeah, well, we have seen quite important part in regards of storage as well, that several industrial productions run only 5 or 6 days a week. And so you have a Saturday, Sunday issue, and you don't want to lose this energy on the one hand, because that is overall 28% of the year. So you don't want to lose 28% of your potential savings. And so all our projects carry enough storage to really take advantage of all the energy. And it's always a balance between costs and additional savings. But as long as you stay below 100 degrees C and you can work with hot water storage tanks, costs are really not too big. So then you add maybe 10% on the cost of a solar field, and usually this does not kill your investment.
Okay, Barbara, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think that's fine.
Yeah. So there was a question, I believe it's for you. Jay Winter said, is there any numbers from the industry in 2017? I suppose your report has those numbers, right? So we can ask.
You mean new ship plants in 2017?
The numbers, the statistics from the...
No, we will calculate that. We will do a new survey among the ship suppliers at the beginning of 2018, and we will then publish current activities 2017. It's always very difficult to keep track during the year. So you need to sort of, because it's always long development periods. So we will do this at the beginning of 2018.
Makes perfect sense. Okay. So I have two more questions. Okay. I'm taking them from the Q&As, but also one is innovation quantum leaps. In any way, in every way, are we expecting a breakthrough in technology of some sort of description, or maybe in financial structures that will take us to the 5-year, just anything innovative, disruptive of the sort? Or this is a very old industry. We're still using, very similar technology. It's making increasing, innovations, but are we expecting anything to come and change the game, so to speak?
Well, I can say that, as far as I know, the linear Fresnel systems and the parabolic trough ones are recycling the technology for concentrated solar power, and maybe the sizing of these facilities is not directly, it's not engineered for industrial processes. So that perhaps if we have a market, in the pipeline, we have a promising market, perhaps industries will invest money in creating facilities specifically for industrial processes, which are, we have to downscale a little bit and then it may perform a little bit better. So all in all, we will have, yes, it could be a breakthrough. Yes or no? Well, I think so.
Yeah. I would add from my side that actually solar thermal, and I'm talking now on the flat plate collector technology, we see an improvement of investment against performance ratio of something like 30-40% over the last 20 years already. And there's still a little bit more to go, but I would not expect that we can cut costs by half again. And, we are actually quite competitive if you look on the right schedule of time. It's just the issue is if someone wants to measure us on a 2 to 4 years payback, this is a real trouble we're running in. And so I think it will be both. We need to improve ROIs, and we will do that, but we need to educate our customers on having the right attitude of times and accepted times on the other hand.
Where is Elon Musk when you need him? He should be right here saying, yeah, ship's the way forward. Right.
Sorry, I want to comment on this as well, Belen.
Go on, please. Sorry.
Yes. No, well, I think that there is one issue that we are always forgetting to stress. As Christian said, we have done very good work on improving our collectors as a component. And what is now really in need is to increasing the cost effectiveness of our supply chain. And this is, I think there's a very good example in our sector, and this is from Sunmark in Denmark, when they started to upgrade the size of their company and doing these large projects. We are now talking about 150,000 square meters in one plant, They halved the costs from the factory to the field, and I think this is something you can only, I think there is big improvements. And if you ask me today about innovations, then I think that this will be the standardization, the size of the systems, and the quantity of collectors and systems we build up. And this will have an enormous effect. And we have not even started at all to tackle this cost-saving potential in ship, because we are today talking about very unique systems and very individual systems. But a rollout, as we have done in district heating in Denmark, you know, with 110 systems and millions of square meters, this is what we need, and this will bring the costs down. And we don't need a new rocket science collector, but we just need a very professional supply chain and cost saving around all the steps we go until the customer.
You know, people agree with you. Paul R. here says, totally agree. So, yes, I also can see your point, and I agree. This is knowledge that we already have. This is nothing new. This has been done for years. So it's just a question of like, and getting to work, really, I suppose. Just the last question before we say goodbye, and it's really a shame because it's a very interesting industry and I'd like to stay, but we do have to go. Last question is, and I hope that this helps everybody out there, who are our customers? What are their job titles? What are their job responsibilities? I cannot get a straight answer whenever I ask this. As a commercial person, to me, it's like, right, target. What are they interested on? Let's go. But it seems it varies so much. That is half of the difficulty in terms of business development. So you guys, who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to convince? Who makes the decision?
Well, from my side, the 3 visits that we have conducted to industries, it's usually the owner of the industry. And if the industry is really big, they may have a financial director that is in charge of the investments, and he will look for the financial figures and he may decide yes or no, but I think it's the owner of the industry.
Yeah. So that the owner of the plant, right?
Yeah, sorry, the plant.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. And if we go to bigger industry, I see that things are getting even more and more complicated, because then you have a CEO, you have a financial manager, you have a risk manager, and suddenly you have a total bunch of people to survive, to convince. So I think that we just target spots are kind of family-owned, medium-sized industries, which are big enough to have a reasonable energy demand, but still have decision-making structures that are accessible, and where one word of one person has value.
So we have to convince that one guy, right? It's almost an emotional decision. Okay. Barbara, you were really quiet, but I know you have a lot to say here. So
no, Christian summarized that very well. I think it's really the early buyers in industry will be probably most of the time family-owned companies that have a view on their grandchildren sort of perspective and want to leave a factory which is ready for the future. And if we can follow this path, there's for sure an early bird industry client.
Excellent, thank you very much. I do think that there is still, we have to approach this as a Sarah retail perspective of clean up your supply chain. But this is maybe a conversation for another day, but I think there is something to be done here. It won't be a quick fix, but I think it can do a lot. You know, PR and CSR does matter. Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you very much, Diego. Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you very much for your time and for your expertise. I do appreciate you taking the time. I do think it's an important issue, and this is an amazing industry, so we will keep fighting, you know, to break those barriers that we do have. All of your amazing attendees as well, you know, we appreciate your time and to listen to us. You've got the details from all our panelists. Anything that you need, we're here, and we hope to see you again in the next webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.